Welcome to my channel. This time I will build a fly line for pike fishing. When fly fishing for pike, you use very large flies. Therefore, you also need a fly line that is capable of turning over large flies. The line I use is a very old Cortland 333, Sync 3 Class 11, which is a real heavyweight. My goal is to be able to use a Class 8 or 9 fly rod with this line. I start by measuring out 10 meters of the body that I will use and cut the fly line. Then I weigh the cut part. 10 meters of the body weighs 24.7 grams. That would be far too heavy for a Class 8 to 9 fly rod. If it had been a floating line, you might have been able to have that weight, but certainly not on a sinking line. I remove 1 meter from the back of the body and weigh again. After the second cut, 9 meters of the body and front taper remain. Now the weight is 23.1 grams. Maybe still a little too heavy for the fly rods I plan to use. I cut another half meter of the fly line. Now the body and front taper are only 8.5 meters long, and the back taper no longer exists. Now I got a final weight of 22.1 grams. This should at least work with a Class 9 rod. Now it's almost time to connect the fly line to the running line. I start by peeling off about 3 centimeters of the coating on both the fly line and the running line. The running line I use is a coated line from Loop called Custom, and the thickness of the line is 0.035 inch. It's time to connect the fly line to the running line. The first thing I do is tie a knot on the shooting line around the fly line. Then I do the same with the fly line. When this is done, I tighten both knots a little carefully. Then I pull the fly line and the running line so that the knots are right next to each other and tighten both knots. Then I cut off the ends so that about half a centimeter of them remains. I wrap tying thread around the fly line and the running line, covering the half-centimeter ends of the knots. It's the same thread I use when tying flies. When I'm done with the thread, I add a few drops of super glue. The last thing I do is add some rubber glue for protection. The rubber glue prevents the joint from tearing as it passes in and out of the loops. To attach the leader to the fly line, I do it exactly the same way as when I join the fly line to the running line. In order to transfer more energy from the fly line to the leader, I use a poly leader that is 9 feet long and a short tippet that is about 40 to 50 centimeters. It's time to test the fly line, but before I test the fly line, I want to point out that this is not a fly line for very long casts. It is intended to be able to carry large flies. I didn't have a large fly to test with, so I tie a piece of yarn to the tippet instead. The fly line feels a little too heavy for the fly rod, even though I'm using a Class 8 to 9 rod. The length I measured was about 31 to 32 meters. That's probably where the fly line's maximum is when it comes to long casts. Here I also try casting in the other direction so that I don't benefit from any tailwind when evaluating how the fly line works. It is still too early to say whether the fly line can handle a large fly. Only time will tell. It will become clear when it is time to fish for pike. This is the fly rod I used during the test. It is a high-level 10-foot class 8 to 9 that I built 16 years ago. The rod has a fairly fast action and is relatively easy to load. Time to test the fly line I built and pike flies I tied in the water. It works well, but you need to apply a little pressure to get the big flies out.
Yep.
As you can see, we have also built a small platform for the boat with a mat on it. If you put the running line on the mat, there is always less of a tangle when it is quite windy. As you can see at the bottom of the picture, we also had the opportunity to try out the new rod holders. These worked perfectly throughout the day. No pike all day, but suddenly something happened. It wasn't a pike, but a large and nice perch. It probably weighed around 1.5 kilos. It's almost a mystery how the little perch got the big fly with a big hook in its mouth. At first, we thought about killing and eating the perch, but pretty quickly we decided to release it back into the water. At the end of the fishing day, we switched to a small trout fly to see if there was a big difference. It really was. The trout fly was much easier to handle and could be cast significantly further.